Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another College and Career Pathways, where every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. we provide you with information on various colleges, universities, financial aid resources, technical schools, training programs, career exploration, career readiness skills, employment opportunities, all designed to help you make the best career decisions possible. I'm Tony Curitin, your host, and today we are back with Michigan Schools and Government Credit Union, continuing with our financial literacy series. And today we are going to talk about understanding how to lease a car. Welcome back, Colleen. We're so glad to have you.
Good afternoon. Great to see you again. Good to be here. Leasing a car, it's a topic you don't hear about too much, and I don't remember ever learning about. It was just something I heard people did. My family never leased cars, so I never learned about it. And it's a great, important topic, because how do you know if it's for you if you're not really sure what it is? So we're going to be looking at the differences between leasing a car and purchasing a car. Is there a better choice? It depends. Well, first, we've got a great video here to get us started, and then we'll go over it.
Whoa! Leasing or financing options available.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I want this, but I'm not totally clear on the difference between leasing and financing a spaceship.
Well, it's just like leasing or financing a new car, except this car happens to reach 50,000 miles per hour and can navigate in outer space. But other than that, it's exactly the same.
Right. The problem is, I don't know the difference between leasing and financing a new car either.
Well, it's not rocket science. Here, let me show you. Leasing a car is like agreeing to rent it for a fixed term of 3 to 5 years. You pay a deposit, you make monthly payments, and at the end of the term, you return the car and can start the process over again with a new car. Financing a car means buying it with the help of an auto loan. You pay a deposit, you make monthly payments, and once the loan is paid back, you own the car. In general, leasing payments are lower than financing payments.
Whoa. Leasing means I get a brand new spaceship every few years and payments are lower? Sign me up.
Ha! Not so fast, Space Cadet. You need to understand that your monthly payments are designed differently depending on whether you're leasing or financing. When you're buying a vehicle, your monthly payment goes to repaying your lender plus interest. Once the loan is paid back, your payments stop and you own the vehicle. Unlike leasing, where your leaser owns the car and you continue to pay monthly the entire time you're leasing.
So, if I lease a vehicle, what exactly am I paying for if I don't get to own it?
Good question. You're not paying for the entire car when you lease. You're paying for the value you use up during the time you're driving it. So, if you're leasing a vehicle that costs $21,000 new, and the leaser estimates that it'll be worth $10,000 at the end of your lease term, your payment will be calculated from that difference, plus some interest to sweeten the deal for the leaser.
So that's how lease payments are always able to look so good.
Right. In the short term, based on monthly payments alone, it's cheaper to lease than to finance. But once you've paid back your auto loan, that changes because you no longer have to make monthly payments. Plus, you get the benefit of any residual value if you decide to sell or trade in your car after some time. Of course, there are other factors that can influence the value over time. When you own a car, you assume responsibility for major repairs down the road, whereas leased cars are well covered by a warranty. But leasing can come with all sorts of surcharges like mileage overages, excessive wear fees, and lease cars often have higher insurance rates too. It all comes down to what's important to you. Some people prefer to drive a new model every few years, even if that means limiting their mileage. Others prefer the freedom of ownership and being able to drive as much as they want and customize their vehicle however they want. What sounds good to you?
Okay, I'm sold. For me, financing is definitely the way to go. How much does this baby go for?
$21 billion.
On second thought, I can't even do the whole space travel thing because I'm allergic to stars. He. Okay, well, how much does this spacesuit go for?
25 million?
Just the helmet.
6 million?
This random tube thing.
1.5 million.
Is there anything in here that's in my price range at all?
We have freeze-dried ice cream in the gift shop.
Sold.
Oh. Leasing versus buying. Sorry, I'm just gonna move this. Leasing versus buying, the same but different. In the same way that credit unions are very much like banks, but not quite the same. A private school is very much like a public school, but not exactly the same. Leasing a car is very much like financing a car, but not exactly. So what are those differences? What are the basics of leasing? So what makes leasing its own category? Well, it's for a fixed period of time. So it's not indefinite. It's not forever or until you decide to sell it. Excuse me, it's usually for 2 to 3 years. It says 2 to 4. I've seen mostly 2 to 3 year leases. It's an initial deposit is required. Oh, do you have to leave a down payment if you lease? Yes. So when they say an initial deposit is required, deposit meaning kind of down payment, meaning your initial good faith investment, saying, I know I can pay for the rest of this car because here's a little bit right now. Whereas you'll see special deals and commercials for sign and drive, or, come in today, no money down. You'll be able to, leave with the car. That's possible with financing, but not with leasing. Leasing, you do need to make a financial commitment right off the bat. And you are continuing to make payments the entire time you have use of the vehicle. So the whole 2 years or the whole 3 years. But you're just paying for those few years of use. Whereas if you are financing a car, financing meaning getting a loan, going to someone to help with the finance, it's buying a car through an auto loan. It can be 3 years through 7 years. Most auto loans are 5 years. That's 60 months. You'll hear on commercials, 60-month term or 48-month term. I'm going to come back to the down payment one in just a second. So 3 years to 7 years. An initial deposit is often required, but not always. It's always a good idea. It's always beneficial to put a down payment down on a vehicle. It's not always required. Now, when you're putting a down payment on financing, depending on the dealership that you buy it from, they may have a special deal. If you put $500 down, we'll drop the price to X. Or if you put $1,000 down, we'll give you a special $399 financing.
Colleen,
Or
there's a black box on the screen.
But,
Yep, there you go.
Or it might be a special deal where you're able to sign and drive and you don't need to put a down payment. You, as a buyer, may be specifically looking for a situation where you don't have money for a down payment. You weren't expecting to have to buy a car, or something happened and you had to spend the money you were saving up. So you may need to specifically look for either no money down or very low money down. When we're talking about a lease, how much down for the lease? It's usually a few thousand, a couple thousand. You don't have to pay for half the car. You don't have to pay for 25% of the car. We're saying like 5% of the car, you know, a small amount, because it's just a good faith investment that you're going to continue to make payments. So only a couple $1,000s. Pros and cons of both. When you hear people talk about leasing or financing, they're usually very much one way or the other. You know, my parents buy cars. They've always bought cars. They have no interest in leasing. They'll tell you leasing's a bad idea. There's no point in it. Whereas my aunt and uncle, they've got new cars every time you turn around. They've leased cars. They've always leased cars. They've always had new cars. That's what they've always done. So there isn't a right or wrong. There's a better for your personal situation. So how do you know if it's better for your personal situation? And again, it could change over time. Maybe buying is best right now and leasing is best in the future, or vice versa. In terms of ownership, when you're leasing, you don't own the vehicle. I mean, you may call it, oh, here's my car, you guys can take my car. And for all intents and purposes, it is your car. But technically, you don't own it, meaning you're just paying for a portion. You only get that car for a limited amount of time. So it's not that you are going to have it for many years. When you purchase a car, that is your vehicle until you decide to, you know, sell it or turn it in. It's something you are ownership. You can use it as collateral in a future loan. You may be able to borrow against it in the future as an asset that you have. But a leased vehicle is just something you're borrowing. Depreciation, meaning losing value. Well, cars lose value in general, right? You hear as soon as a brand new car drives off the lot, it loses like $1,000 or $2,000 in value right away, just from the fact that it's not brand new anymore. As soon as it's been titled to one person, it becomes a used car, even if they've only had it for a week. You know, now the value goes down. So in 2 years, the value of your leased car probably won't go down too much. It'll go down a lot because it's going from new to used, but it's not going to become, you know, a junker, certainly, or have a whole lot of engine issues when it's only 2 years old, 2, 3, maybe possibly 4 years old. So it's not going to be MSRP, you know, brand new value, but it's not going to have a ton of wear and tear. You only are paying for what it is worth, the amount of time that you are using it. Whereas a financed vehicle, you're purchasing the entire car. So instead of paying for a portion of the value, you're paying for the whole value. You're purchasing the whole vehicle. And right here, in the first year, a car will depreciate 15 to 20%, which is a lot. And then about 10% every year after that. So keep that in mind. If you put no money down and you're making payments, like the example showed $500 a month. If you pay $500 a month for 4 years, that's a lot of money, but you still haven't even paid the car off yet. You still have a whole nother year left. Well, if you decide to sell the car, or if you crash the car and now you need a new one, you still have to pay that extra year. The value of the vehicle may not be as much as you still owe. That runs into, people run into that a lot, where by the time they feel they're done with the vehicle and they want to sell it, it's not worth as much as they owe on it. So putting that down payment right away really is a great way to keep you from getting into that situation of owing more than the car is valued. Payments, like I mentioned, leasing is cheaper because, again, you're only paying for a portion of the use. So a vehicle that if you were to purchase it, it would be approximately, let's say, $500 a month. That same vehicle, brand new, would only be a $300 a month payment, which sounds great. Wow, that's a much better deal. Again, strictly when looking at payments only. You're paying 30 to 60% less than someone who's purchasing the vehicle. This will allow you to drive or have access to a car that's out of your price range. You know, you may be able to lease a Cadillac Escalade, but certainly not purchase it. You know, you may be able to lease a Tahoe, but not purchase it. You know, as far as a status symbol, you know, you want to look, I don't want to say fancy, but successful. You want to look like you have money. You want to, you know, you're marketing yourself. So you want to have a nice, new, beautiful car. So that's important to you, being able to show this expensive car off. Well, then you may have to lease it in order to do so. The average maximum monthly payment on a purchased car is $480, which is interesting since it just says $505 here. But I would say an average cost $480, whereas a lease, an average is about $325. Now, when you purchase a car, they're higher, but that's because you get to keep the car. You now have the value. You now own the car. So you have that item, that asset to sell, to do whatever you want with. You're going to be paying a longer amount of time as well. So you're paying more per month and you're paying for a longer time, but you may be able to stretch it out for many more months. If you aren't able to say, I have to give this car up in 2 years, and I don't know what my situation is going to be in 2 years, and I know I'm going to need a car, so maybe I should buy a car because, I'll at least have that one. Customization. This is something certainly to think about. A leased car isn't yours, so you can't do anything to it. Now it's a nice, new, beautiful car that probably has, sync and Sirius radio and nav systems and, all kinds of cool stuff. But you can't change, the sound system. You can't change, anything in the exterior. I love trucks. I was big into off-roading when I was much younger. A lot of my friends, we had lift kits on our Jeeps and, new coil springs and snorkels on a car, or a roll cage, or, put a winch on the front, or even a hitch on the back. And you can't make any of those changes to a car that isn't yours. Those that even have, stickers all over their car, or they put flames across the side, anything that really makes the car yours, kind of when it's like your house, you paint the colors what you want, you make the garden look like what you want, you keep it as clean as you want. When you're borrowing a car, you're just driving it and promising to keep it as is. You really can't do anything. You can't put fancy tires on it. Can't change out, to a more, I'm trying to think of anything you could do. You really can't do much. Whereas if you're purchasing a car, even if you're still paying for it, even if you're, making payments, you can customize it however you want. You can, again, paint it. You can change the colors of the doors. You can get a speaker system, any remote start. That's another thing. If you don't have remote start on your lease, you can't add it. So this sometimes in itself gets people thinking, well, I have kids. They're gonna destroy the car. oh no, or you know what, I have kids, so I want a reliable car. I need to make sure that it's not going to need fixing all the time. So if I lease, I know I'll be getting a new car that's under warranty, and I won't be having maintenance costs. It's probably safer. It's probably more reliable. Mileage is another sometimes deal breaker. When you are leasing a car and you're renting it for a certain amount of time, you also promise to use a certain amount of miles, or you have a maximum amount of miles that you can drive. Usually 10,000 miles a year. That's kind of standard. So if someone has a 2-year lease, from the day you sign the papers, when you bring it back, don't bring it back with any more than 20,000 miles, extra miles. If you do, if there's 21,000 or 20,500, you pay an extra fee for each mile after that, which may not sound like much, 15 to 30 cents, and maybe even be more. Sound like much, but that really, really adds up. What's $1,000 times 300 cents? Or I mean, times 300 times 30 cents, excuse me. I mean, we're talking hundreds of dollars. What's your job? I mean, if you drive at least 15,000 miles a year, or if you don't know how much you're going to be driving per year, personally for my job, I'm doing presentations in different places all the time. I'm different schools and libraries. I'm in Macomb County, Oakland County, Livonia, the St. Clair Shores. So I do a lot of driving. And luckily I get mileage, some mileage through work, but I use a lot of miles. I can't really lease a car because I know I'd for sure go over the miles. Regardless of my job, I do a lot of road trips. My car has gone across to New York and back more times than I can think of, driven to North Carolina multiple times. I like big, long road trips. And if you can only drive 10,000 miles a year, you know, that trip up north or that trip to Chicago, you may not be able to take your car. Or you may not be able to attend or go, or it may end up costing you hundreds of dollars. So certainly your personal situation, your job, what you think things will look like in the future is going to determine whether leasing or financing is better. For example, my mother, she's older, she barely drives anywhere. Any car she's had for the past, 15 years, she's put like 3,000 miles on the car a year. It still looks brand new. She barely touches it, right? She's retired. She stays at home most of the time. So why not? Why not get a lease? Get a cheaper payment. She gets a new car. She's barely going to drive it. Works out great. It's not really going to make sense to pay more for a car for years and years and years that she's going to keep. I mean, you can sell it and try and recoup some of that. But then, like I said, my parents always purchased cars because we had cars forever. We drove, our family trips were driving. We drove across the country. We drove everywhere. So we had cars for 10 years, 10, 15 years, 8 years, certainly more than 4 or 5 years. And not having a car payment, it's great. I mean, think about it. When you're paying $500 a month, even $300 a month, month after month after month, and now it's finally that 61st month. Oh, I mean, that's $500 every month you're not paying anymore. That can go to something else. So that time that you're driving a car, that 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, that you're driving and not making a car payment, I mean, that's a lot of money. If you're leasing consistently, essentially, you're always making a car payment. So think about it that way. I seem to have bought cars every 2 years for the first, throughout my 20s. And I was always having to pay off a previous loan into a new loan with the new vehicle, and I always owed more than it was worth, and I had to roll one loan into another. And now I had a car for 10 years, and then unfortunately I totaled it and had to get a new one, and I plan on driving it 200,000 miles. It's perfectly fine. I love the car. I have no reason to get a different car. So I'm perfectly happy financing a car. I don't, personally leasing, I don't want to be left without a car. It makes me nervous to say in 2 years I have to give it back no matter what. I can say, okay, I'm giving this car back. Show me what the new lease options are, because now it's 2 years later. Now I want to start a whole new contract with a brand new car with that payment, and you can just keep doing that. You can turn the car in at this dealership and maybe get a new car over here or a new car over here, but you're always going dealership. There is no, you're looking through Auto Trader and you find, this is the perfect Ford Explorer. This is just the one I want. I'm going to call up the guy and see if he'll lease it for me. No, if the guy is selling it, if it's a private owner and he's trying to sell his car, he's not going to lease it to you. He doesn't want it back. He's trying to get rid of it. So leasing will only come through, a specialized auto dealer. And you're not going to be able to lease a used car. You may be able to lease, a year or two old car. But if you're thinking, I'm just going to save money, I just want to rent like a 2015 car. Well, that's not an option. You can buy a 2015 car, or you can pay the lease cost of a 2021 car. So it's the numbers. What kind of job do you have? Maintenance and wear and tear. Again, if you're driving across the country every now and again, you're going to be spending money on tires. You're going to be doing a lot of oil changes. You're going to be changing brakes. You have to keep up with that. To maintain the value of your car, you keep up the maintenance, right? If you don't get work done, you don't get that squeak taken care of, you don't fix the broken wiper, you drive the brakes till they're just grinding, that's really lowering the overall value of the car. So the more you just keep up with it, give it a regular oil change, wash it, maybe spray off all the salt from the winter, you're taking care of it. A leased car will have much less maintenance and repairs needed as it's a new car. And really, if anything significant happens to a brand new car, it's under warranty, and the dealership should take care of that. Whereas if you're buying a car, it probably has a warranty for the first couple of years, same as the lease, so you're protected in the beginning. But after that, after maybe 80,000 miles, or after it turns that 100,000 mile mark, then you got to get the new water pump and radiator, and then the alternator and the starter, and it just goes on. And sometimes you can get a friend to fix it. Sometimes you can get great deals. Sometimes stuff lasts a really long time. Other times it all seems to break down at the same time. Are you able to buy a car at the end of the lease? Excellent question. Yes, that's okay. So yes, sometimes that is an option. It'll give us a sample comparison from the beginning to the end. So we'll see what happens at the end of the lease as well. So let's say we have the same vehicle, okay? The total cost to own, it's a 24,640 vehicle. This is how much it is to own it, right? So for the first 48 months, this person is going to be leasing the vehicle. This person's going to be purchasing it, right? Doing it financing. It's a $21,000 vehicle. right? That's really what I mean to say, that the vehicle itself in both cases is $21,000. Okay. Well, 24 to 48 months. 4 years is a very long time for a lease. Now, because 4 years is more typical for a finance, I think that's why they're using that to compare. So it's, apples to apples instead of trying to compare a 4-year loan to a 2-year loan. So assuming that it's a 4-year lease and a 4-year car payment, well, 4% for both. There's going to be interest for both. You're never going to go completely interest-free. It's going to be the same title and registration for both. That comes from the government. Taxes, it's 6% taxes on a purchase, just like you're purchasing any other item in the store. You're paying sales tax. Whereas because you're not actually making a purchase, you don't have that sales tax for a lease. So what about a down payment? Well, this is a very small down payment. You know what? We need something. You have to provide something, but how about $300? So, okay, I only give you $300. Whereas I'm financing it, nope, I want 0 down. I want to sign and drive. I'm not putting any money down. Okay, well, there's certainly no taxes on the payment because I already paid all the taxes at the beginning. Whereas because I did not pay taxes at the beginning, for a lease, I'm paying little bits of taxes as I go because I'm paying for the small amounts that I'm using at a time. All right. It's just so set up that my payment is $305 a month for 4 years. If I am purchasing the car, it's $505 a month for 4 years. All right. So now, at the end of 4 years, this finance, I'm sorry, I forgot these boxes. Interest rates vary. Lease rates sometimes as low as 0%, but it's promotional. Always ask questions. Always, does it change? What happens after so many months? Taxes are paid up front for financing, where again, in leasing, it's paid as you go. Lease payments are typically lower. You're paying for only a portion of the car. At the end of 4 years, you own the vehicle. You have it. You own it. What they call free and clear, meaning you can sell it to someone. You can store it in a garage, but you have it as pure ownership to do whatever you want. A lease, now you would turn in the vehicle. You drive it in, you say, okay, I paid that $305 for 4 years, and now I'm handing you the vehicle. You might say, oh man, I really like this car. I really don't want to give it up. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to. I just want to buy this vehicle. I just want to buy this. Well, because of the situation you've already been in, you've paid off so much of the car, and the car now has a value of $10,000. So at the end of 4 years, instead of turning in the vehicle, you have the option to purchase it for $10,000 or, at least $10,000. So you may say to yourself, well, that's kind of the same thing. Well, you have to come up with that now. You have $10,000 right now. Well, if not, now you got to finance. Now you got to take out a loan. So now you're taking out another 4-year loan for the $10,000 that you're paying after the original 4-year loan. Question being, can you buy a leased car? If you lease a car for a few years and you like it, you want to keep it, a lot of the time you have the option to purchase it, but you have to then continue to make payments for more years because you have not paid it off. Whereas in that same length of time, you would have had the car completely paid off. So you could turn it in and go back to making $305 payments on a new vehicle Or if you made a 4-year loan on a $10,000 loan, it would be, certainly less than about half of that. It would be maybe $200 a month. So it depends on your situation. Maybe at the end of your lease, you aren't where you thought you'd be. You thought you would still be at this old job. You didn't think you'd be living in this place, or, the miles you have to drive to work every day are very different. Situations change, jobs change, moving changes. So there's a lot of factors to, do I want to lease right now, or do I want to finance, right now? You can sell a vehicle, you can turn in a vehicle, but there's a lot of differences why financially, maintenance-wise, let's see, there is the leasing differences, the main factors, the ownership. How important is it to you that it's actually your vehicle? How important are constantly all the time making car payments, or being able to reach a time where you've paid off the car and you have no more car payments? And that's a really big chunk of money that you can put towards other things. Is being able to customize the car really important to you? How important are the amount of miles you drive? Can you cut down and you don't really see a problem only driving 10,000 miles a year? Or do you really see a problem even maybe only 15,000 a year? Are you a realtor and you drive people around in your car all the time showing them houses? Well, that's a lot of miles. But then again, you're marketing yourself and you want to have a nice, comfortable, nice new vehicle to show off. So, you got to look at both sides. Wear and tear. Are you personally, is someone in your family good with mechanics, good with fixing things? If they are, well, then great. Then, maybe buying a car is not a big deal. If, nobody is handy and, you're just going to be taking it to the shop all the time, well, maybe I should look into leasing. I like stability. I'm a homebody. I like planning. I like organization. I like stability. So that's probably why I like to purchase cars. I like to, this is my car. This is what I'm going to have. Things might change, but I know that this is my car. I have plenty of other friends that every few years they pick up and move. They change jobs. I can't see where I'll be in a few years. It's a lone wolf. And they would never buy a car. They would never want to be tied down. They don't want to make a commitment longer than a year or 2 years. So if that's the type of person you are, then, leasing may be great for you. If you feel like you're going to travel a lot, or maybe travel for your job, live in different places, then maybe you don't need to buy a car. So again, there isn't a right or wrong. There's probably a better or worse for the specific situation you're in. Those are some great questions. Are there any other questions you can think of as far as leasing versus buying?
Colleen, you mentioned that when you're leasing, you have a certain amount of mileage that you're allotted. And if you go over that amount at the end of your lease, you have to pay that fee. On average, what or how much would that look like?
So assuming that someone drove 15,000 miles a year, whereas they were only supposed to drive about 10,000, that could be a $1,500 fee just for that year. So let's say you drove 15,000 miles each year, so now we're talking your $3,000 over in fees. And that's Now if you want to buy the car, you got to pay that $10,000 on top of another $3,000. So that may be something that you don't think about at the time, or I'm sure it's not going to add up, or maybe I'm not really paying attention. And that's certainly not something you want to be surprised by, is a $1,000 fee or $2,000 fee. And you don't want to be stuck in the last few months of your lease not being able to drive anywhere.
And then the next question I had was, are you serious? I forgot just that quick. Oh my God.
Well, while you think of it, I happen to just think in my head that I'm talking about these as if you have all the options. Now, it's based on credit.
That's the question.
Are you approved for the car?
That's the
you
question.
may not have the credit to be able to lease a new car. You may only be able to buy a older vehicle. You may be able to purchase a car now, kind of working your way up to being able to lease a vehicle. Or if you're leasing a vehicle and you got it because you have great credit now and it's always been a little spotty, maybe it's not so good in 2 years. And in 2 years, if your credit's back down, well, now you might not have the opportunity to lease again. Or you could, but they're going to charge you, much more. It's going to be more expensive. So credit and credit worthiness absolutely plays a part in this, in the same way of just plain old, can I afford this car? Can I afford a $500 a month payment versus can I afford a $300 a month payment? So we're on the same track then.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. Well, I have no more questions, and there are no more questions in chat. So we will bring this session to a close. Thank you so much, Colleen. Excellent presentation as always. And thank you for joining, and we will see you all next time on College and Career Pathways.
Great day,
Bye.
everyone.